Once again, the stars align at 9 p.m. on a Thursday night. And once again, the members of Super Deformed Gamescast gather as the pyres burn to discuss hot takes and video games.
I can't believe
we are glad you've joined this hot trash dumpster fire of a podcast.
I can't fucking take it seriously. It's a great start. It's a great intro. Unfortunately, the joke and the reference is going to be lost on like everybody.
Dude, I haven't played it. It's still hilarious to me.
I haven't played it either. Yeah, I know. It's still pretty funny. I haven't played it.
It's a good voice.
So if you have not played Pyre, I recommend you start. It's an.
Is that really what he's saying? That's really what he's saying?
No, dude. So there's a guy. So
I mean, I heard you talking about it like a few weeks ago. I remember.
So Dave and Finn and Dave, who's playing. Is that not what happens before every match? That the voice comes on.
The narrator.
Yeah, and in the most grandiose way possible. He's like, leap into the flames and douse your enemy's pyre.
He's like the one voice in the whole game too. Like everyone else, like it does that visual novel thing where they all talk like
gibberish with like blah, blah, blah.
You know what's absolutely crazy though is the voice of the voice in Pyre is the same guy that is the narrator in Bastion and the same guy that
is that really him?
Yeah, that's him.
Yeah, it's
Holy
the same guy.
shit.
He's the voice in all three of their games, and I did not hear that. Like he has a crazy range.
I'm glad to know that he's making a living doing this.
That's so good.
The really fucking crazy thing is that in Bastion. In Bastion, he sounds like a blues man. He sounds just like this. And then in Transistor, he just sounds like a normal guy. He sounds completely normal. He sounds like he sounds like the main character of How I Met Your Mother, right? He just sounds like a regular guy. And then in Pyre, he becomes an aristocrat. Oh my god, I sound just fucking like this guy.
I mean, maybe like each game that they've developed, like each game, like based on like what phase this guy's going through in his life right now. like they don't like think about making a game. And this dude's like, yo, like I'm into this now. And they're like, okay, we gotta make a game based on this.
This is the best lore.
God. This is the deepest fucking lore. Anyway, episode 87 of the Super Deformed Gamescast. As always, I am one of your hosts, John, aka at Mr. Megadub on Twitter. You guys know that by now, but I'm going to remind you anyway.
I didn't know that.
You know that. I don't need to tell you that. You know.
I didn't know that.
Well, now you know. No, we got a good show tonight. So a little bit of house cleaning. Unfortunately, JT is going to have to take an extended leave of absence from the podcast. He's just got a lot of stuff going on, but don't worry, he will be back at some point. And JT, if you're listening, buddy, we miss you, and we hope things get easier for you. And your slots aren't going anywhere, man. You'll always have a home here. Just let us know when you're coming back. And Jeff is out because it's his 1 year anniversary. So Jeff, this non-Bud Light beer is for you.
I got a little something myself. What do you got?
What do you got?
Let's
all toast our Jeff. And if you don't have a beer, just dicks out for Jeff. So we have everybody get your dicks out for Jeff. So we have two guests tonight. One of them is a frequent contributor to this podcast, and you can also find him on Real Games Media. Sam Tolbert, it is always good to have you on, my friend.
It is always good to be with y'all. It's always a blast, always keeping it real.
You started off as a fan of this podcast. I
did, actually. Well, I actually started off not liking this podcast, but that's an even longer story. But yes, I did follow this podcast.
Back when you were...
I wasn't on the show yet. I understand.
Back when you were being tainted by outside influences.
Yes. We won't go there, but
we'll leave it at that.
I came to the light. Let's put it that way.
We brought you into the light of truth, and we're always happy to have you on. And you've come a long way. Now you're part of the games media, man.
It's been a wild ride. It hasn't even been a year. That's the crazy part.
Just forget, Sam, I made you, and I can unmake you as well. And we also have my good friend Dave Roberts, who is used to be the Games Radar, but now Dave, why don't you tell everybody what you're working on now?
Yeah, hi. I'm Anthony Agnello and Susan Arendt, two friends of the podcast, and I have started our own sort of independent podcast away from the corporate tendrils of Ubisoft's they didn't influence. But no, so it's called Continue Podcast. It's on patreon.com/Continue Podcast or just continuepod.com. And Anthony sings slow jams.
And the man has a voice that can make a Wolverine purr.
Voice of an angel. I yell about Kingdom Hearts and Metal Gear a lot, and Susan just sighs. So yeah.
All right, yeah. I can hear it in my head.
So yeah, that's what we're doing. And Susan and I are also working on another project that should be going live in a couple of weeks. Yeah, so you'll find out about that. I think we can talk about it. It's Genie Online. It's a magic deception kind of website.
So is this like magic that like the magicians do, or is this like Magic the Gathering?
No, like magic, like David Blaine, David Copperfield. Like,
okay, see, that was my next question. David. Is that are we talking like stage magic or actual like sorcery? Like, are you guys performing necromancy? Or is
I'm gonna guess both.
Magic's real. So
well, that's
that's make of that what you will.
Obviously, it is. And everybody, I would highly recommend going to Patreon and patronizing the Continue Podcast. I myself am a patron, and actually, I want to point out, not to toot my own horn or anything, but the highest tier is 25, and I'm patronizing 40 because I want to do more for Continue Podcast than fucking anybody does. So that's what I'm doing because I'm fucking awesome.
Well, someone has to brag about it.
Yes, they do. God damn it, I am charitable, but I will fucking brag all day about how charitable.
Well, this is your hot take of the night.
This is the hottest of fucking takes.
So do we have to get like a gold plaque or something and hang it up?
I think what you have to do is, if you guys ever do like a live video, you have to have like you know how those old Renaissance paintings, like, you know, you'd have like a muscular guy in a toga, like holding like a fig leaf or something. That's what I want.
Okay.
Behind you guys is like
you want the full like painting treatment. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Or like maybe like, you know how like on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel they have you know, God, or you know, like man reaching out and touching God. I could take the place of man, and instead of God, you could have Todd Howard.
Okay.
How work that out? That would be fucking fantastic.
Yeah, Howard.
and you can start every podcast with Todd bless us all.
Yeah, we'll get on that. We'll get right on that.
Please do.
I'll keep you posted.
Let me know.
Put that in my filing cabinet.
But no, seriously, you guys are doing fantastic stuff over Continue Podcast.
Thank you.
It's actually really good having all three of you guys together on one microphone again.
Yeah.
And you've been on here before with doing a Final Fantasy 15 spoiler cast, but you've never been on the Gamescast before. So now I have the whole collection. I've had Susan, I've had Anthony, and now I have David. So the trilogy, as I like to say, is now complete.
The Final Fantasy 13
you caught them all.
Is completed.
I did catch them all, didn't I? I caught.
Am I the 13 too of this trilogy? Is that what?
You're the
Lightning Returns.
You're the Lightning Returns, which to be fair, from what I've heard, has a superb battle system.
That's the good one though.
So your battle
system. That's the dress up simulator.
Yes.
Very fitting for Dave. Very fitting. Dress
yes.
Up. We've just insulted the shit out of our guest. But anyway, we've got some interesting stuff to talk about tonight. But first. Want to do? Oh, and one more thing. This is our last episode with Google Plus. I got into the Discord voice chat stuff,
and John and I tested it.
We tested it, and it works fucking phenomenal.
And John looks really good in it. So
it
works.
I look so good. Like, imagine this face right here, but in delicious 4K.
And 4K, like, it's VR, Xbox One S exclusive.
There's no upscaling here, boys. This is all. What you're gonna see, there's no checkerboarding going on.
The highest quality pixels.
What you see, I mean,
John, basically with Discord video chat, John was powered by the cloud.
I was powered by the cloud. Like it was.
We're going to feel
it was like downloading the Mega Textures pack. It was amazing.
So we'll be on there next week.
Jay got really excited when he saw me. He was like, John, he was like, John, I'm not trying to come on to you, but God, you look good. That's what he said, and I was there. I heard it. But let's talk about let's talk about all the wonderful games we've been playing this past week. And since we are polite, we allow our guests to go first. Dave, what have you been playing this week?
Oh, what haven't I been playing? I've been basically dipping my toes into a lot of the stuff that's been coming out. This week has been, I don't know, it's been bananas. There's two of the games that I've been really excited about are Yakuza Kiwami and Absolver.
Nice.
So I don't know if anybody else wants to go into any of those in more detail, but I can talk about it. Yeah, I can. So Yakuza Kiwami is a remake of the very first game in the series, which first hit PS2 in 2005. I want to say the story.
Dub?
Yeah, so there's no English dub this time around. Yeah. It's all Japanese. So yeah, there's when Sega first released it, they're like, we're gonna go whole hog. We want to compete with Grand Theft Auto. Crime games are big right now, so they got
it was weird.
Yeah, they got like Michael Madsen and Mark Hamill.
They spent a lot of money on it.
Yeah, and when the game came out, it tanked hard. Especially compared to like the Godfather game, the Scarface game, and like True Crime Streets of LA or whatever. There were just too many crime games, and Yakuza didn't really stand out. But time, has kind of allowed it to develop a cult following, and then like a bunch of people tweeted Gio Corsi to be like, "Hey, bring those Yakuza games over here." So they've been working with Atlas and Sega to bring them all over, and now they're sort of remaking the old games. They just announced an HD version of the second one. So this one, basically, it takes a lot of the stuff that was brought up in Zero, which was the prequel that just came out earlier this year, and sort of retrofits some of the plot from that and the characterization into Kiwami. So it's almost like it's a direct sequel to this prequel rather than just a remake of the first game, which is like people ask me, well, what should I start with, Zero or Kiwami? And I'm like, honestly, Zero, because there's some stuff in Kiwami that like you won't get or care about unless you played Zero first. But as a game, as a part of the Yakuza canon, it is clearly a game from 2005 with like PS3 era graphics. The story is it's a bit rough. The pacing's kind of off. They still haven't figured out the depth of the characters. Like Majima is basically just a guy that shows up to beat you up, and not this like crazy loon that he turns into over the course of the series. And they put a little bit of that in there. There's a system called Majima Everywhere, where you'll just walk around downtown the city, and then like Majima will appear out of a manhole and just start fighting you. And then if you beat him, you can unlock new martial arts moves and skills and stuff.
Okay, so Dave, I have a question.
Yeah.
I have never played a single Yakuza game.
Yeah.
Not a single one, right? But I did play and love Sleeping Dogs. So if I love Sleeping Dogs, would I love something like Yakuza?
I think so. It's different. So Sleeping Dogs is very much in that mold of Grand Theft Auto, where you have this big open city and you can hijack cars and you drive around, you take on like side missions and stuff. Whereas Yakuza is much more like it is almost like a JRPG brawler.
A Streets of Rage RPG.
Yeah, where you have a very small area of town that you run around in. And it is much more like you're running around and then, hey, a bunch of Yakuza spot you and they run up to you and then you get into a fight. And then
so for some reason I was under the impression it was Yakuza was open world.
No, it's an RPG.
Yeah, it's a RPG to like level up your stats and whatnot.
Like there's definitely some open worldness in it, as far as like you can explore this slice of the city and take on side quests and talk to people and do like play darts or play like
you can sing karaoke.
Yeah, it'd be closer to like what Shenmue was, where like you're going through a city. It opens up the city as you go through, but you can never like just walk through the city.
But John, I'll say though, if you love the aesthetic of Sleeping Dogs, like I think you would dig Yakuza.
Oh yeah, it is like it is some hard-boiled crime ass storytelling, like dudes with honor fighting against evil dudes who have their own sense of honor, and then they rip their shirts.
So it's like this podcast
sense of humor. Like everything I've seen about it has a really good sense of humor too.
It's also really emotional.
Yeah.
Again,
I still haven't completed Zero, but like Zero still has like some of the most emotional moments to me, like in the game this year.
Yeah, like like we talk about like companies like Ubisoft churning out yearly sequels. Like Assassin's Creed was like really sort of weighed down by this fact that they had to keep making games every year just to keep it like. Whereas like Yakuza, smartly. Like there are about as many Yakuza games out, at least in Japan, as there are like as long as the series has existed. But that series succeeds where Assassin's Creed fails because rather than changing the game every time by setting it into a whole new location, they reuse a lot of assets in Yakuza. Like it's a lot of the same cities, a lot of the same character models, you're doing a lot of the same combat moves. But what changes is the story and the writing, and by allowing you to spend time with these characters every year allows them to do things with character development in ways that like games haven't done. So like like Zero is there. It is some sad stuff going on in that game, and it's I've
heard the writing is really and the narration or the narrative are generally really good in the Yakuza series.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But then you go to a bowling alley and you win a chicken that becomes a manager for your.
That's the clip that
in real estate business. Yeah.
It sounds like the equivalent of what's happening with.
Doesn't he names the chicken nugget
right now?
Yes, he names the chicken nugget.
He names the chicken nugget.
Yeah.
Yes, that is the name of the chicken.
That's fucking outstanding. Is what that is. Holy shit.
But yeah, you definitely need to buy Zero first, just for plot reasons. And plus, I've heard that Zero has more content in it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, like Zero is a bigger game. You play as Kazumi Kiryu and Majima. So there's two characters to play as. It's a longer story. It takes like 50 to 60 hours to finish it, let alone all the side content. Whereas since Kiwami is a remake of the first game, that game is only like 15 to 20 hours long. So it's a much smaller game, which is why it's only $30 instead of $60.
So I want to point out something that Burrow Baracho in chat says. He says, and you see a guy in briefs humping the air.
Yeah.
I know that you're new here, Burrow, but watch for another month, and you don't have to play Yakuza to see a guy in his underwear humping the air. Okay? Throw that out there right now.
You know what's funny is that guy that's like humping the air in Yakuza has a pretty like in-depth storyline too.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm trying to say, bro, is sooner or later I'm going to be in my underwear humping the air on this podcast. So nobody needs to go play. I mean, if you want to see that, just tune in to SDBC every Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's all I'm saying.
Subscribers only.
Subscribers only. That's when we launch our Patreon. That's going to be the highest tier. Is you get to see all of us humping the air in our underwear. It's going to be fantastic. It's a really good time. 30 minutes of nothing but that. Nobody's talking. We're just humping the air in really mournful silence.
Anyone gonna say anything?
No, just let him go.
Right.
So we talked a little bit about Yakuza. What about Absolver? Because I know that came out this week. And Matt or Finn, you've played that as well, right?
Correct.
Okay, I want to hear from both you guys. Like, what's your opinion on Absolver? Because the reception on that one seems to be fairly all over the place. So, guess first, Dave. What are your thoughts on Absolver?
I dig it. It is very clearly trying to be a Dark Souls. Like, I hate to bring up Dark Souls because it seems like it's such a damn crutch these days. But it is clearly going for that. It's a very sort of bleak world, very quiet and haunting, and you're running through locations, these like interweaving pathways that lead to different environments and stuff. And there's a lot of like it's always online. So as you're running around, there are people that you'll come across, and you can fight them. You can fight with them, and they can help you out. You can team up or double cross each other. So there's that sort of element to it. But there's not really a story. It's just the game goes, hey, put this mask on. You put the mask on, and suddenly you wake up in this mysterious world. And the game is just like, okay, go fight dudes.
It's Punch Quest.
That sounds like that the way you just described that makes it sound like Eyes Wide Shut the game. where you just put a mask on and you wake up and you're in a weird situation.
Yeah, but like less like
except the characters are fighting and not having sex with each other. That's
right.
The big difference.
But yeah, it's got a really cool vibe, and the combat is like the thing that you come to that game for is the combat, and I think it's done really well. The way that you can like mix and match different techniques that you learn from other players and enemies that you're fighting, and you can string those into combos that become these free-flowing things depending on which buttons you push. I don't know, what did you think of it?
Talking to you, Finn.
Here's the thing about it. The reason I can see the mixed reviews is because outside of the combat, the game is paper thin.
Yeah.
I see the Dark Souls comparisons, not so much because of the combat, but because fans are saying, no, the story's there. It's like Dark Souls style, which is code for it's not there.
No, that's bullshit. There is a story in Dark Souls. In fact, this Dark Souls has the deepest fucking lore, and you have to be man enough to put it in yourself.
But you really have to dive
so let's cut
deep.
Let's cut that shit.
Are you
let's cut that shit right now.
Dark Souls lore?
Oh, God.
Hold on. What did Brandon say?
I said, are you a bad enough dude to assemble the Dark Souls lore?
Yeah. At first, I'm not gonna lie. At first, I thought he said Mario Kart has more story than Dark Souls. I was
that's not it.
let the fucking desk open.
I've heard for the story in Dark Souls, you have to head deep down to find it.
Oh, well, it's dead then.
Wow, that's
No,
I
but
fell completely flat. I love the 4 seconds of silence where everybody was like,
yeah. The combat in the game, though, is so good that I think that's where the people that really love it come in. It's like the combat and the multiplayer aspect. If you're into those and that's what you go in looking for, you're going to love the game. If you go in expecting... I think the problem is people assumed it was going to be an RPG. And then they get in there and there's just the content and the depth is not there. It's much more like an online PvP brawler.
Yeah.
Like, it's a lot easier to think of it as Streets of Rage with PvP than, or like God Hand, just with the depth of combos and stuff, because the combos get ridiculous, especially when you're fighting people 1-on-1, 2-on-1, 3-on-1. Your stances, your abilities that you've unlocked, just all of it comes into play, and that's where it excels. It's everything else outside of the core mechanics that just don't exist.
Yeah, it's like it looks like, and it feels like it wants to be like a Dark Souls kind of adventure, but when you actually strip down kind of what it is an online fighting game with a sort of mild environment to like a lobby to explore, which is just this big world. And because like the thing is, the story, quote unquote, takes like 6 to 10 hours to beat. I've seen people say as little as 6 and as much as 10, which is not a whole lot for a game that looks like what Absolver's trying to do. But the thing is once you finish it, then the online opens up, and it's like, oh, now you can join a school. And schools are created by like the best Absolver players. And you can work your way up these schools and teach other players how to fight and teach them their moves, and then you can create your own school that people can join. And the thing is like,
I always pictured a Pokemon MMO would work out with gyms.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you guys this, and then I want to move on to Brandon because I'd love to hear his thoughts on Hellblade, because I know he's been playing it today. So, we all laugh at the Dark Souls comparisons because I agree with you guys. Like, as much as I love the series, that comparison gets thrown around like fucking
way too much.
It's like Dark Souls. It's like Dark Souls. But one thing you have to say about the Souls community, and this goes for Bloodborne too, is that these communities have online communities. These games have online communities that last for years. Like, you can still find there are no shortage of people playing Dark Souls 1 right now, or Demon Souls. You can still find people playing Demon Souls all over the place. So these communities last years and years and years. Do you guys think Absolver will have any sort of legs whatsoever, especially with something like fucking Destiny 2 coming out in 5 days?
See, that's the problem, is because this is an indie studio game, it really comes down to, are they going to have new content coming out? Is there going to be more on the way? I think it's going to have a cult scenario, but I don't see it having giant... I think it'll do better than Lawbreakers, but...
Is that saying much?
Yeah,
yeah, that's not saying a whole lot. I mean, Lawbreakers has like 5 people.
I personally hope it does really well.
Lawbreakers legit has like a couple of hundred people playing it on Steam.
It's under 400 a day now.
It's like it's like
Oh,
300
man.
people.
Poor
That's
Cliffy.
heartbreaking.
That's like unheard of.
I like quick pivot to that real quick. Right now there are more people playing fucking what's the name of that? I can't even. It's so bad.
Brink, Battleborn, any of them, all of them.
Battleborn is so forgettable. I don't even remember the fucking name. And more people are playing Battleborn and Brink than they are playing.
I mean, Brink is free to play, but yes, like it's.
And from what I've heard, Lawbreakers is fine. So what the fuck?
Yeah, everyone kind of likes Lawbreakers, just nobody actually wants to play it.
I mean, holy fucking shit! I'm not laughing because I'm glad because I think it's funny that the game failed. Like that's terrible, and I feel bad for Cliffy B. Because I mean, people work on these games really hard.
I mean, they started a new studio just to make that game.
I mean,
one of my really good friends still plays it every day.
That is,
and he knows every other person.
He knows every other
personally.
I think he does actually.
Jesus Christ. All right, I want to move on to Brandon because Brandon, you have been playing Hellblade today, which
finally I've played a game.
My game of the generation so far. Brandon, I am dying to hear what you think of Hellblade.
Yeah.
Man.
So I made some good progress. I just downloaded it this morning, so I started playing through it in the afternoon.
Did you play with the Sennheisers on?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, man.
It was good. You got to play with the headphones. I don't even want to know what it sounds like with regular TV speakers.
No, you don't.
But, I mean, yeah, it's like I beat the first 2 bosses, so I'm not super far, but it's not like a very long game either, right?
Yeah, you can finish it in like 7 or 8 hours. My first playthrough was 8 hours because I could have finished it in an hour less, but I kept like stopping just to look at the gorgeous fucking environment.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I'm getting stuck on some of the puzzles, like some of the very, very, very simple puzzles. They are some simple ass puzzles.
That's because we're Marines, man. We're not supposed to.
It's like, yeah.
Where are the crayons?
What exactly you're supposed to do next is rather, I guess, obscure. And then once you figure it out, you're like, oh, that was the most obvious, easiest thing in the world.
So let me ask you this: Are those parries not the most satisfying fucking parries in gaming?
Yeah, I mean, really well animated. Like the combat is basic as could be, but it's not a big part of the game. It's like it's not a big deal.
Well, the other thing that gets me about
it looks
about
good,
about Hellblade. And I know Sam has not played it, but I let Sam share played it. Watched me play it for a while on PS4. Everybody knows that Senwa deals with psychosis. She has a mental illness, and if you rotate the camera around, she will not make eye contact with you.
It's incredible.
And I'll have to look at that when
If you point the camera right,
it's incredible.
It is right, Sam. Like she'll just like look away.
I mean, the post-processing on the visual effects is ridiculous. Like, if you look at a flame, you see like 6 flames, and then if you rotate the camera, they're like rotating and shit. Like,
it's so.
It's like
good.
You're always disoriented in a very creative way.
And there are some. There's one point in the game that you have not hit yet that is like it's straight up fucking horror experience. Like, dude, it's.
I'm looking forward to that.
Like,
yeah.
Oh,
right now, like the game's not scary in any way, but it's unsettling.
It's really stressful. It's a stressful.
I mean, I got through the fire part, which was obviously pretty hectic.
Yeah, and Finn knows what I'm talking about. There's a part of the game that for like 5 or 10 minutes it turns into a straight up horror game. And, and you're like, oh gee, and dude, it's fucking frightening. Like it is creepy as shit. But dude, I'm so glad you're enjoying it, man. I fucking love Hellblade. I fucking love. I
mean, like my expectations aren't like over the moon. Like it's not trying to meet impossible expectations for me because like, hey, it's a $30 game. It's not about the combat. It's about the story and the character. It's a character piece in a video game. And that's great.
Exactly. Yeah, with some very simple but very, very satisfying combat.
Yeah.
John and Brandon. I'm glad that you're enjoying Hellblade, but there's someone else here that has very strong opinions about Hellblade that wanted to share.
Oh no! Please no. Please.
So I don't really.
Oh no! No! Don't do it.
No.
Hey, Saki. It's everyone's favorite sock puppet with terrible opinions. What do you think about Hellblade?
That bitch crazy.
Thank you, Saki.
What even is this podcast anymore? I don't. Why?
Forget horror games. That's actually the scariest thing I've seen here.
It looks like a
Oh, Matt with stripes. Just chimed in on the chat that this is why he tuned in for Saki.
Wait, hold on. Somebody in chat said that Matt Piscatella says this is why it's Jesus Christ.
Oh,
And
that's so good.
What's wrong with you people?
Saki, say hi.
Hey guys.
No, we're done. No. There's no. And by the way, I want to give a shout out to our friends Matt Piscatella and Anthony Agnello in chat.
I want everyone in the chat to vote on which worse. Which is worse, Saki or my opinion on Mario?
No. Throw a third option there. What's worse? I'm not calling it Saki, by the way. That's Sock. Your opinions on Mario or my beanie?
It's Saki the sock puppet with terrible opinions.
It's not. I'm not calling that fucking thing Saki. I'm sorry.
I need a picture of Saki.
It's a sock on your girlfriend's hand.
Saki might just become our Bubsy. He might be.
I will point out, I would like to tell in chat, Trago1337 says Saki needs eyes. You're in luck. After a trip to Michael's this weekend, Saki will have googly eyes for next week. So here's
the problem. We've got reputable people in chat like Anthony and Matt saying they came here for Saki, and this.
I look forward to the inevitable mascot platform.
So I have always thought, David, that this podcast needed a mascot. That sock is not it. That sock is not fucking it.
John, there's already fan art for Saki. I will share it with you.
I think that
I would sooner have my nuts be the mascot of this podcast.
Everyone should go check our Twitter account right now.
Oh boy, Christ, what have you done? What have you done? I gotta look. Hold on. I need to make sure. What have you done?
Where are we looking?
We're looking at our official Twitter account, at the SCGC Twitter account. What have you done?
All right. Retweet if you think Saki.
Oh, God damn it. Are you hearing this? I'm not retweeting that. I am not retweeting that. I am not. Jesus, why are you laughing so hard? It's not even that funny. It's not even that funny. Anyway, we're moving on.
I'm irony poisoned at this point.
Breakdown in gaming society.
In the 2 minutes since you introduced that sock, we've lost 3 viewers. Just saying. Sam, what have you been playing this week? Moving on from the sock, what have you been playing this week?
Okay, so every time I've actually gone to play Hellblade, and I've gone to play it, I'm not kidding you, 5 or 6 times, I have found that I had either homework that was not overdue but needed to be jumped on, or a review that I needed to do and that got assigned to me, or a new writer to train. So I haven't gotten to do that yet, but I assure you it remains at the top of my list. I am aiming to play that as soon as possible. But in the little bits of time that I have had time to play something, I've played a good portion of Conan Exile's new update, The Frozen North, which actually turns a very rote survival game into a pretty cool barbarian-themed game.
Can't you
it actually fits
change
really well with the lore.
Dong in that game?
Look, I'm not Jez Corden, so we're not going down that route, okay?
I'm just saying, is that the game where you can customize your dong size?
It may be, in fact, yes. It might, in fact, be. But it's actually really cool, like building settlements and assigning thralls and then summoning eldritch gods to destroy other players' forts. It's actually pretty fun. The newest update is really cool.
I'm sorry, Sam, real quick. I don't want to interrupt you, but real quick, I just want to point out this is Anthony Chet says Saki needs to be a weapon in arms. Jesus
God help us.
Anyway, Sam, please
God help us. Okay. Let's see. I've also been playing a good amount of Total War Warhammer because I'm a huge Creative Assembly RTS nut, and I played the sequel at E3, and it's going to be awesome. So that's pretty cool. That's coming up in September. And then let's see what else I've been playing. Oh, I've also been playing a lot of Titanfall 2's newest update. After they said they were going to stop
so glad you're playing that. I'm so glad people continue to play it because it's such a good fucking game.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. There's actually a really good report on that. More people played Titanfall 2 this last month than played any previous month, including launch. Now, granted that many...
I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, everyone missed Frontier Defense.
I thought you were going to say more people playing Titanfall 2 than Lawbreakers. I was going to say low bar. That bar is
that's not a good bar. That would not have been a good bar to lead into. Across all 3 platforms... I think it was across all 3 platforms, predominantly Xbox because there's a bit of a history there, but nonetheless, they had over 1 million concurrent players last month.
Wow.
So it's actually, I'm not calling it a comeback story yet, but...
I was about to make the Rainbow Six Siege comparison.
We could be looking at a Rainbow Six Siege type deal here, where
Which is
more
good
people,
because everyone should be playing Titanfall 2.
yeah, they're doing the DLC model right with not microtransactions, but hey, if you want to support us by buying these cool custom skins or whatever, then you can do that. But otherwise, all the content is free, all the updates, all the guns, all the new Titans that they've added, like Monarch. So yeah, it's really awesome. If you haven't played Titanfall 2 yet, it's literally $20 on Xbox and PS4, and you need to grab it. Absolutely, 100%.
It's also on.
Titan-
It's also
Titanfall's
on.
fucking-
It's also on EA Access now.
Yes, there
And
is that
Origin
too.
Access too now.
Yeah, so if you subscribe to either of those, you can get access to it that way. It is a shooter that needs to be supported,
It really, it
110%.
Yep.
And so yeah, Total War Warhammer, Conan Exiles expansion, and Titanfall 2. Those are pretty much the big three. I've also been playing a bit of GTA, just blowing off stress, blowing stuff up, running over pedestrians. That's always fun.
I just want the next Conan DLC to be called Dongs of Exile.
Lordy Lord.
I know you do.
Like
Dong sizes, you say?
age of Dongs or something like that. Just call it. I just want to point out, since there is no non-attribution on this podcast, I just want to point out that in our own private chat, Finn just says, "I regret nothing about Saki."
That's good because Saki has already gotten 9 retweets.
That's disgusting. That is
The people have spoken.
Welcome to your new mascot.
welcome to my new fucking.
We are officially in the darkest timeline.
What? Hold on. Hey, okay. So I'm gonna sound like an asshole, but what? All right. I'm not gonna go there. Never mind. I'm not gonna go there. Okay. So anyway, I'm not gonna do it. So Jay, let's get in what you've been playing this week, and then I want to talk about something that I've been playing that I want all you guys to know about, and then we'll launch into our first topic.
Okay.
No, Matthew.
What's
What's that? I played games too, guys.
I mean, you already talked about Absolver and okay, fine. What have you been playing? I should fucking punish you for the sock shit, but I'm not gonna do that.
He's been playing
Uncharted
Saki-
Lost Legacy.
He's been
Oh,
playing
yeah.
Saki 3D.
Okay, yeah, no. Let's hear about it. Actually, yeah, let's hear about some Uncharted Lost Legacy.
No, I mean, I don't want to take away from too much. I mean, we've discussed it before. I'm farther behind than you guys,
I finished it.
but I'm trolling around the amazing Chapter 4. Still just exploring everything I can, and I'm just really enjoying it so far.
Okay, so I want to point out Matt Piscatella in chat. He wants Saki to say Dongs of Exile. If Saki will say Dongs of Exile, I will all is forgiven.
All right.
Dongs of Exile.
There we go.
That's all I needed.
Best
That's all I
podcast.
needed.
Someone just said in chat, I joined the chat for Saki.
What? I don't even know what the fuck that is.
Oh, this is the best.
Oh my god, what is happening? What is happening?
All right.
You guys can think me later.
Please continue.
Sam in chat says cause, but some say Cosm Grandized.
Oh. This is
Holy shit.
I just want to point out, if anyone hasn't read John's review on Uncharted Lost Legacy, that's up on our website.
that's
Actually,
Jeff's
Jeff's
review.
review. That's Jeff's review, not my review.
Jeff, my bad.
No, if you want to read a funny review, read my Friday the 13th review. It is
I
not-
have. Don't worry. I have.
It is not kind.
I have. Sorry, I got my J's mixed up. We have a lot of J's in this.
Speaking of Jays, why don't you go and tell us what you've been playing this week?
All right, I'll talk about 2 of my games. I'll talk about the other one later on our last topic of the night. I started playing a little bit of Everybody's Golf, which used to be known as Hot Shots Golf in America.
Oh, I thought you said everybody's
shame.
golf. I thought you said everybody's golf.
Yeah, isn't it?
What a shame of a name.
Is this a game about the crow? Holy
I
shit.
play that game.
I played the game when I was in high school.
But this is what I'll say about Everybody's Golf, because I think it's a really good golf game in general. But I think the format of the game is much suited to a portable device.
You are not the only person I've heard say that.
And it's on a console, and that is a bad thing.
So
If you have a Switch, though, I know that some golf game called Golf Story just got announced, and it's coming out next month.
Yeah, that's like a golf RPG game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so if you have a Switch, you might want to look out for that one.
I haven't
So-
played a golf RPG since Mario Golf on Game Boy.
I would rather
On
play
Game Boy,
Mario
God, it was good.
on Switch. I'd rather play Mario Golf. But I will. So I want to ask you this, Jay. I've heard a lot of people say that the multiplayer capabilities in the game are actually quite lacking and disappointing.
I actually never got to test those out because it took forever for me to get the update file. Like it took forever. But I'll talk about single player because and that's why I'm playing sports games for a single player. And it was really repetitive. I think there's only 5 courses in the game overall.
Ooh, really?
Yeah, and you have to play. I hadn't even gotten to the second rank yet, and you have to play the same course over and over and over again in different tournaments, and it's just the same course.
Do you guys think they would have been better off just doing hot shots?
Personally, probably just because it's known as that here. I think it would have been better as just a budget digital game.
Yeah, like I feel like if this was like a $20 game, I feel like it would have been fine. But I feel like as a $40, kind of like not big release, but like.
Well, especially compared to other Sony $40 releases like Ratchet and Clank and the Crash trilogy and
Knack 2.
Yeah, Knack 2. Like, regardless, we don't know what that's going to end up being like. But just they've been putting out these consistent $40 games, and the majority of the quality of those so far have been a lot higher than everybody's golf. But you know what? At least they didn't try charging $60.
I mean, I only paid $10 for it, so maybe I shouldn't be complaining too much about it. But I just wish it was like on something portable. I wish I could just like take it with me and like play it for like 5 minutes and call it a day. So that's just my thoughts on it.
I'm not gonna lie.
You just said the Lost Legacy is also 40. That's another one.
I'm not gonna lie. I've got to throw this out there, and it has nothing to do with everybody's golf. But I will say that guy who literally popped into our chat to say, "I came here for the sock," that was almost as good. Brandon, that was almost as good as the time we were all playing Harambe.
Yeah.
In Overwatch, we were all playing Winston, and then some guy came into the YouTube chat and named Lord Harambe, and just spammed Harambe memes the entire time. Like, that was.
I don't know what that was about. I don't know where that guy came from.
You remember that? Oh, that was so good. David,
of course I remember that.
David, it was so good. We were streaming Overwatch, and we were all playing as Winston. Every single one of us just running around, going, doing that hello over and over and over. And some guy named Lord Harambe pops up in the chat, and he kept spamming Harambe memes over and over. He's like, make them remember Harambe. Like, I'm like, what the fuck is happening? The sock thing was almost as good. That was almost.
Saki now has 11 retweets, by the way.
Nice.
Saki's gonna be more popular than I am.
And the other game that I will talk about right now that I've been playing is Pillars of Eternity, since that got console released this week.
I thought you were, I for a minute, like you said pillows, and I was like, if this is some weeb shit, I don't want to hear about it.
I am tired, so maybe Pillows of Eternity.
Pillows of Eternity. the new X Scene game.
You know what's crazy though is Pillars of Eternity. It was made by Obsidian, but part of it was involved with In Exile. And they're based out of New Orleans. And back when the game hadn't quite come out yet, I got to go to their offices and meet them and try it out. Oh God, it's so good.
Yeah, Pillars is amazing, and I think the console port is amazing as well. Like I'm surprised about how well like it plays on the console.
I'd love to try it, but I mean, I'm like knee deep in fucking Mario and Rabbids right now, and then Destiny 2 comes out next week.
Yeah, it's a very long game that you'll need to devote your time to.
Yeah, I just don't have time for it right now.
A lot of reading. Speaking
of games, I want to.
Great game though. Go buy it, guys.
Well, I want to tell you guys about Mario plus Rabbids because that's what.
Oh God! Right? How did I not even talk about that?
So too late now, motherfuckers. I'm going to talk about it, but please feel free to jump in. So I've been playing Mario plus Rabbids. I put about 10 hours into it so far. And boy, oh boy, talk about this game just surprising everybody. Like when the concept was first leaked, like I was one of the ones who was like, no, fuck you, Mario and Rabbids. Are you shitting me? I wiped my ass with Rabbids. And then we saw the actual gameplay reveal, and I was like, okay, I'm digging this. And now that I'm actually playing it, wow, the XCOM comparisons are, first of all, like spot on. Like Mario even has a skill an Overwatch skill where you activate it, and if one of the rabbits moves in his FOV, he'll pop out and fire at him. Luigi has the same thing, and this is what you can tell within 5 minutes that this game was made by huge Mario fanboys. It's awesome. Luigi actually has an Overwatch ability called Steely Stare that is a reference to his look from Mario Kart.
Is it really the
look of death? Dude, it is outstanding. And the rabbits themselves are actually, believe it or not, they don't want to make you rip your own face off with the claw of a hammer. Like, they're actually tolerable. But
I never hated the rabbits, but they always felt like after the first couple games, it was just like this is what Ubisoft is making.
They felt like low rent Minions.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what happened. It was like the same thing that happened with Minions. Was they at first were a cameo in a Rayman game, and then they just kind of overtook it, and just like how Despicable Me has just become a Minions vehicle.
Yeah.
Rayman does not exist anymore. It's all Rabbids all the time because kids love it.
Yep.
Well, one of the things that really grabbed me about Mario plus Rabbids is it's a strikingly beautiful game. Like, the art direction is unbelievable. Yes, it's only 720p in handheld. It's only 900p docked, but we all know you do not need to have a shitload of P's or a bunch of K's in order to be a beautiful game. You don't.
Yeah.
And Mario plus Rabbids is evidence of that. It's a beautiful fucking game
because it has such a good art style. It doesn't.
The art style itself is fantastic. I feel like it feels like the Mushroom Kingdom has been invaded by Rabbids. Like, there is nothing out of place here. And oddly enough, the Rabbids almost seamlessly fit into the world of the Mushroom Kingdom. Well, maybe not seamlessly, but the idea and the transition is a lot more palatable than I thought it was going to be. And the gameplay itself, it's similar to XCOM, but like the motion and the traversal. I've never played a strategy game or an RTS with this kind of traversal before, because everybody's got a sliding move, right? Like, you can move and then slide into an enemy, and then you can go back to where you were, or you can hide behind a thing, and eventually you can chain things together. You can slide under an enemy, you can keep going and have one of your characters flip you up in the air. You can go even farther. Then you can land on one of their heads, just like in a Mario game, jump off, and then shoot them in the face. And I'm like, that is fucking outstanding. The amount of chaining you can do is unbelievable, and you're going to need to learn how to do that because the game itself, believe it or not, is extremely challenging. Like, it is, after you clear World 1, the challenge factor wraps up considerably. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's as difficult as like XCOM, but you will. I have died several times. My entire party is wiped.
Especially if you want to do all the bonus objectives and stuff,
which are extremely difficult.
Right, but I love that because it's easy enough for beginners of this genre. But if you want to do all that bonus stuff, it'll make like even hardcore XCOM fans work a little.
And oh my god, the music in this fucking game, you guys! Oh, the music is so fucking good. Like what was it, Dave?
It's Grant Kirkhope, right? Did the music?
Yeah, dude, Grant Kirkhope. I mean, he did the soundtrack, and the music in this game is far better than it had any right to be. I mean, the boss theme, like one of the first. This isn't a spoiler because we've all he's been a part of the marketing, but Rabid Kong is the first boss.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to point out, I feel like Bwonky Kong would have been a much more clever name than Rabid Kong, right? Because that's kind of their catchphrase saying blah 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 blah. That's what the Rabbids do. I feel like Bwonky Kong would have been a better name than Rabid Kong. I don't know. That's just me. That was like my first thought. I was like, why didn't you just name him Bwonky Kong? Like, that took me 5 seconds to come up with, and I'm a fucking idiot. But Rabid, so the bosses in this game, like Rabid Kong is the first boss you fight, and one, he's challenging, but two, the music is just like it's actually like a very heavy orchestral remix of the Donkey Kong Country theme. And I had a smile on my face the whole time. There's a lot of strategy involved in the battle too, because you can't actually. He's got like this pile of bananas in front of him, and he will continue to replenish his life until you do something about the bananas. And the entire fight is set in 3 phases, and it's just it's so fucking good. I've been thinking about like Mario plus Rabbids like half the time we've been podcasting. If I'm going to be brutally
I'm surprised you're not actually playing it the way Brandon always plays Overwatch.
I could be playing it right now, but you guys deserve my undivided attention. I'm not like Brandon or Flunky playing Overwatch and Rocket League while we're podcasting. Brandon's probably playing Overwatch right now.
I'm not.
But I know you. But
I'm too busy playing Dragon Ball Z on my phone like a cool kid.
But dude, Mario plus Rabbids is legit. It is worth every bit of it. It is a full price game. There's a ton of content, and it's a decent sized game too. I mean, most people are taking about 25 hours to clear it, and that's not doing any of the side content. And there is a considerable amount of extra content in the game, plus some downloadable stuff coming later. So I mean, yeah, dude, Mario plus Rabbids completely came out of fucking nowhere, surprised me, and I got to tell you. Right now, I mean, I'm only 10 hours in, but right now it is, I mean, it will be talked about when we get to Game of the Year discussions. It will be talked about. It's that much fun. It is.
John, I have a quick question about the game.
And we saw, remember when they first leaked their PR plan, the PowerPoint presentation leaked out, and we all laughed at how dumb it looked? But
yes,
then we saw footage, and every one of us was eating crow. Like, I don't care. You could have said that you had an open mind. No one saw that PR marketing forecast and was like, yeah. Everyone was just rolling their eyes.
I mean, the game is so fucking good. It is, I mean, it is probably the second best game on Switch right now, right behind Breath of the Wild. Bar none, in my opinion.
I have a quick question about this Mario Rabbids game. Do you think there are more rabid enemies in the game than there are players playing wall breakers right now?
Oh shit, dude. Oh my god.
So John, I have a question for you.
Oh my god. That is so fucking bad.
I have a question for you, John.
Yes, I do. What's your question?
Do you think that by the time you're done playing this game, you'll have become a rabid fan of the franchise?
I have to leave.
You are
Sorry.
fucking
I have to go.
to me. You see what you've done? You are fucking dead to me. You know what?
You're a kid now. You're a rabbit now.
At this point, I would rather have the sock on the podcast than you.
This podcast.
No, it was a joke. It was a joke. I didn't mean it. Yeah, I didn't mean it. Go away.
Don't be mean.
Go away. Oh my god.
No.
Okay, how drunk did he have to get you to do this?
I'm sober 10 years.
If you're gonna do that shit, it has to be okay. Now people are spamming hashtag Let's Saki Host in chat.
I actually agree with that statement.
This is the worst. This is the darkest timeline of this podcast.
We have derailed.
This is the worst. Okay, so let's talk about one of our two topics right now. So when Sam and I were playing Hellblade, or when he was watching me play Hellblade, I had been thinking for a long time about why 16-bit games visually hold up better than 64-bit games. And I brought that up to Sam, and even though like I couldn't see his face, I could almost picture him going like, "Huh, why is that? Holy shit!" And I wanted to kind of explore that on a broader level, because I don't think any of us would argue that visually, maybe not from a gameplay standpoint, but visually, 16-bit games are far more appealing and hold up far better than 64-bit games. And I think a really good example of that is look at A Link to the Past and then hold that up next to Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask, right? And I mean, I tried playing Ocarina of Time on my 3DS, and I was struck at how fucking ugly that game is. And I was like, oh my god! I was like, this looks terrible. Like, it was difficult to play. It hurt my eyes. And then I popped in A Link to the Past, because I've got it on Virtual Console, and it's a beautifully animated, gorgeous game. I mean, the pixel art is just mwah, chef's kiss. And so I wanted to see what the group thought about. Do you guys agree with me? Do you guys think that 16-bit visuals hold up better than 64-bit visuals, which have more power?
100%.
And if that's the case, then why is that? Why do visuals on a far weaker system hold up much better than something on a more powerful system? What is it about those visuals in our brains that is causing that to happen?
I mean, I really don't agree, but
I think it's with practical movie effects versus CG. Like at the time they look great, but they aged themselves so much that when you go back and watch old CG, it's like going back and looking at an old PS1 N64 game.
I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know if I.
Well, it's a little more nuanced than that, if I might interject.
Okay,
Please.
let's hear from Sam, and then I want to hear from Dave.
So when you told me this, John, it really threw my face into consternation because I agree on a general level. There's a couple of exceptions you can find, but on a general aesthetic level, I agree. At least for a lot of older 32-bit games and the like. And it puzzled me. It puzzled the bejesus out of me. And so I started thinking, and I did a little bit of research, and it comes down to two words, in my opinion. Uncanny Valley. 16-bit games don't enter that region where you're trying to make it realistic, where your brain is trying to process it as a real face, as real human beings, or as a realistic scenario. 32-bit games, however poorly through age, do. You reach that level of polygons, you reach that level of detail where you're trying to rationalize it. Even on the level that you aren't trying, your brain is doing it subconsciously. 16-bit games never hit that level.
I mean, like, the animation of 16-bit games, like, think, like, Final Fantasy games, they're mostly pantomiming, right? Like,
Yeah,
there's
it's like
super exaggerated.
Yeah.
And that did carry on to, like, the 32-bit games. I mean, in, like, Final Fantasy VII, you had Cloud, he had his pre-canned animations where he would do, like, the hand over the head thing or whatever. Like, they were just pantomiming things. But, like, as animations started to get more intricate, like, if someone is trying to drink out of a mug, if the mug, like, doesn't touch their lips, you're going to be like...
I remember shit like that, yeah. Well, like, so I get what Sam is saying, but I think he goes deeper in that. And before we hear from Dave, I think I saw something. Actually, people in chat are throwing out some really good suggestions. So like, it was where was it here? I just had it in front of me. Somebody said, I can't remember who it was. I lost it, but somebody said that. Here it is. Yeah, Cricken. He says, early 3D games were trying way too hard to be good looking. It wasn't until GameCube, Xbox, Dreamcast, and PS2 that 3D games started looking decent.
So, like, yeah, I think that there's the aspect of tech. I think the better comparison isn't like 64-bit to 16-bit, but like 64-bit to 8-bit, or like Atari, where like Atari and NES were sort of the beginnings of the 2D era of games. They look really rudimentary compared to 16-bit games because the tech had aged, their ability to use that tech to create more vibrant worlds had gotten much better as well. And then you have all of a sudden this brand new technology that they could use, the early 3D graphics, the 32-bit and 64-bit games. And, you know, like, at the time it blew our minds, but when you go back and look at them, they've aged poorly because, again, they were the building blocks for the PS2 and then, you know, and so on, the PS3 and, you know, PS4 that we have now. And I think that's one reason. I think the other reason is that, like, 16-bit games, and like any game that sort of utilizes the limitations of the hardware rather than trying to strive for ultra realism, they're better able to use our imagination to fill in the gaps. So like, you play a game like Chrono Trigger, and that world feels huge, right? Like, you're going through different time periods, you're going to different cities and locations, but like, you actually look at how like big that game is. It's not a big game at all.
There's like 7 in different areas of like size. There's like each time period is rather small, actually, but it felt big. It feels big, and I think that like 32-bit games and 64-bit games, like they're trying to replicate that same kind of bigness. But something has to give, especially when compared to the hardware. So, you know, visual fidelity is often sacrificed to do that. And like, you look at a game like Final Fantasy VII, I'm really interested to see like how they take that game and make it bigger, because like most of Midgar is like, that's in your head. Like, they didn't build that city, but it feels big. So yeah, I think that it's just, And you're not even getting like a perspective of Midgar because it's all pre-rendered environments. So you're only seeing like the one little camera angle they want you to
You're
see.
seeing what they want you to see. Yeah.
Exactly. And so, like, yeah, I think like the 16-bit games age better because they use the limitations of the system to build worlds that feel big in your head, where the 32-bit and 64-bit games are trying to go for that more realistic thing, and your imagination doesn't have to work as hard, so it focuses more on the imperfections of the world.
So let me throw this out there, and then I want to pass the ball to somebody else.
I mean, like, I think I have a point that like
go ahead, man.
games, because there were games that were trying for photorealistic graphics on the Super Nintendo. You had like the pre-rendered games like Donkey Kong Country and shit like that.
I remember that.
And like those are some of the games that hold up the worst, where they were the most impressive at the time. Because I distinctly remember when Donkey Kong Country first came out, people were freaking out about how it looked. And Super Mario RPG, like Super Mario RPG was amazing looking for like a Super Nintendo game. But now like those pre-rendered graphics don't hold up as well as maybe something like say Super Metroid or Chrono Trigger.
Yeah, I think that like the lesson to take is like art design trumps graphical fidelity.
Oh yeah.
So,
I mean, I was actually gonna say to piggyback. I'll wait till you're done, but I had a follow up to that exact point.
So I wanted to bounce off something that Anthony said in chat, and it's I you know, Anthony, I love you, but I sort of disagree with what you're saying. Like I get your point. Anthony says 16-bit games represented the culmination of 15 years of design refinement, and that I agree with. 32-bit and 64-bit represented a design philosophy reset. Here's my takeaway from that. Like here's the issue I have with that. I feel like there is a bigger gulf in between early 16-bit games and the end of that generation than there was the beginning of the 32-bit generation and the end of that generation. What I mean is, if you take like, and Brandon, you'll know what I'm talking about. Or anybody who's played Final Fantasy IV will know what I'm talking about. If you take Final Fantasy IV and you put it next to Final Fantasy VI, or take it further, put it next to something like Chrono Trigger, you'll say, wow, like there is a very clear evolution in visual fidelity, in art direction, in art design, in the crispness of the image, and the animation. It looks worlds better. Even from the subtle shading of the command window, right? Like as in Final Fantasy IV, it was just like a flat blue, and then in Final Fantasy VI, you had that gradient color. It was lighter at the top and then darker at the bottom. And it's yeah. You know, I'm talking about small subtle things like that.
Oh yeah.
And then with Chrono Trigger, the gulf gets even wider. And I feel like the games that came out, for example, at the beginning of the PS1's life cycle, well, by 1999 or the year 2000, things had improved when we started getting.
I mean, like look at Vagrant Story compared to Final Fantasy VII.
I mean, I would still argue there's not a huge difference. Like the difference is there. Like Metal Gear Solid was good for what it was, like from a visual standpoint.
I mean, early PS1 games are rough.
They're really rough, and Final Fantasy VII is
Hey
one
man,
of the
don't diss my X games too.
But I guess my point is that I don't know. Do you guys see what I'm trying to say? Is that I feel like there was more of an evolution looking at early 16-bit games to the end of that generation.
Yeah.
When compared to the 32-bit generation, you know what I mean? I don't feel like the visual gulf. Yeah. Go ahead.
I think, I mean, that's true in general, though. I get what you're saying totally because it applied to level design and artistic design as well. But even look at a lot of recent games. How often do we say, oh, well, this game looks incredible, you know, this is the best thing yet? But it's only really pushing things forward a tad bit.
Yeah.
You know, just in the last couple of years, we've had Uncharted The Lost Legacy, Uncharted 4, we've had Hellblade, Horizon Zero Dawn, Gears of War 4, you know, even Call of Duty in its own way. They all push the boundaries on visuals, and they all look incredible. They all look superb, but that gap is getting smaller. Each one is pushing design forward less and less.
Yeah, I mean, like if I were like, I can't really pick out a difference in visuals between like Hellblade and The Order. Like,
yeah,
they both rely heavily on post-processing effects, and they both look really good. But like, there's not a huge difference. I'm not.
Well, I would even say that look at like going back to the PlayStation 1. Take Metal Gear, because these came out around the same time. Take Metal Gear Solid, and then compare, and you know, because that was a polygon-based game, and then compare that to Castlevania Symphony of the Night. And I would argue that Castlevania Symphony of the Night is a side-scrolling pixel-based game, and it is far superior in both visual quality and animation than Metal Gear Solid could ever be.
I mean, I highly disagree with that. But
Oh, no. Okay, I got to hear this.
I mean, like, I think a lot of it for a lot of people here is like the 16-bit looked better because that's what you grew up with. Like, I think there's like a I think there's like a nostalgic factor to it.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like it's like, you know, you grew up with that, so like it's gonna be timeless in your eyes for the rest of your life.
But
It's
I don't agree with that though, man. Because I mean, I was a Nintendo kid. Like I grew up with the NES. I mean, that was like in my childhood. I mean, I was, you know, Super Nintendo came out in 1991. I mean, I had 11 years of NES, or not 11 years, but you know what I mean.
6 years of NES.
Yeah, 6 years of the NES, and
Five
those
or
games
so.
look butt fucking ugly. I had no problem boxing up my NES Classic and sending it to Jeff. I was like, no, I can't, not looking good. So I don't think it's like maybe for some people, but for me, it's not nostalgia, man, because right now, like for me, NES games look distractingly bad. Like I don't want to, like I actively don't want to play them.
I mean, NES games are basically kind of like prototypes at this point. And when we look at them like nowadays, I mean, like they're there, but like there's kind of like the blueprint. They're kind of just like the blueprint for 16-bit.
But just one generation later, like I can still, I mean, and this is just one generation later.
And then you still have like beautiful 2D animation going well beyond what the Super Nintendo was doing. You have like the Metal Slug series in the late 90s is like pushing 2D pixel art like as far as it could possibly. Yeah,
good example.
But that's my point. Is I think it's less about the bits now and more about the unique art styles are the ones that stand the test of time, especially in these generations of games where the graphics have not aged well. The ones that did are the ones that utilized cell shading or some other graphical look, like Wind Waker or Beautiful Joe, Okami, Ni no Kuni, like all these Dragon Quest VIII. All these games still look good now because they didn't utilize, I guess, traditional 3D graphics.
I played Jet Set Radio on PC not just more than a few years ago. It still looks really good.
And I guarantee you that's going to be the reason why Breath of the Wild eventually, 10 years down the line, is we're going to look back on Horizon and be like, oh man, those graphics aren't anywhere near what we have now. But Breath of the Wild, because of its art direction, we'll still be going like, God, that is a good-looking game. Unlike Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask.
Yeah, Ocarina of Time looks pretty good.
Hold up.
It kind of blows my mind that, you know, with you know, like what you just said, like The Legend of Zelda is undoubtedly a classic, right? Like that almost jump-started game, or, you know, adventure gaming as we know it. That's my classic Zelda. My son is 9 years old, and he's cutting his teeth on Breath of the Wild, and that will be his classic Zelda. Like when he's 37 years old, he's going to say, it all started with Breath of the Wild. So it's kind of crazy to think about that. But yeah, you know, I don't know. Like I don't want to. I still want to spend time to. Go ahead, Jay.
I guess going back to Metal Gear Solid compared to Castlevania Symphony of the Night, I mean, I feel like Metal Gear Solid, like, I mean, it has the polygons, and I guess the polygons of 32-bit have not aged that well.
I mean, they don't even have faces. They don't have faces.
But I feel like for the theme of the game and the aesthetic that they were going for that game, like I think it all fits really well. It kind of gives it gives it like that cyberpunk feel.
But
and I think you also need to look at that. I think you need to look at
face. If I play Metal Gear Solid right now, it's just, and like everybody in that game looks like the blank from Dick Tracy. It's unsettling. I can't do it.
But it looks like a dark, greedy game, and that's what it was supposed to be. It's supposed to be
everybody has no face, Jay.
Fourth wall, like cyberpunk game. Like I think it works well for it. And I think
Jay, if you have no mouth, how do you scream? If you have no eyes, how do you see?
What if that's canon?
Face.
What if I have no mouth and I must scream?
Everybody in that game is Decoy Octopus by default. Everybody in that game is the chameleon from Spider-Man. Because none of them have a face.
But I mean, like I guess like for a 32-bit, like I still look at 32-bit games, and I think they also look really great. But at the same time, you know, that's how I grew up playing games was with the 32-bit. So I guess I always have like that, you know, nostalgia to it.
Look, all I'm saying is that if you play Metal Gear Solid now, you're going to be thinking everybody in this game is one of the faceless men from Game of Thrones.
I played like a year ago, and it still looked great. So.
Oh, it looks great, but I want to reiterate that nobody in that game is a fucking face. And like I didn't think about it in 1998 when I was playing it, because I was like, man, this is great, you know, like, oh man, these 3D visuals and blah blah blah. But now I'm playing it, and I'm like, nobody in this world has a fucking face. And
So how do you feel about games like Super Hot, where there's no faces?
I have never played Super Hot.
But that's a visual.
And that's a different comparison. Like when Solid Snake
rather than a technical limitation.
When Solid Snake and Meryl are talking, you know, and they're both having a very, you know, and like they're looking at each other through eyes that see nothing because they're just slits. I'm like, this is completely
no mouths.
But Metal Gear Solid looks like this really cool graphic novel that's like live, and like I feel like
nobody has a face, Jay.
Who cares if nobody has a face? Like, it looks like a really cool game. I feel like aesthetically...
My point is that it doesn't hold up. John,
hold on. Look at chat.
Hold on. What's going on in chat?
Oh,
Saki doesn't have a face, John, and Saki is beautiful. But this...
So I will say that I think the evolution from Metal Gear Solid 1 to Metal Gear Solid 2 is a great one.
So
yeah, can't be understated.
Yeah, I mean, but Metal Gear Solid 2 is the best one. So
we're gonna have to fight about this, I think.
Don't even ask him what his opinion on Mario is, by the way. We're not even getting into that.
Oh no, I need to find out.
No, you really don't.
All right.
You have to let the guests know what they're getting into.
Oh God.
What is the Mario opinion here?
The only good Mario games that have ever been made are Mario Kart 8 and Mario Party 4.
Jay.
Okay, you had me at Mario Kart 8, and then you lost to me at Mario Party 4.
Okay,
moving on.
What makes Mario Party 4 the superior Mario Party game?
Moving on. Okay, I can't. Okay, we've already had a borderline anthropomorphic sock on this podcast. I can't deal with Jay's Mario opinions.
Did it have googly eyes on it? I missed it.
No.
Next week.
No.
Next week we will have googly eyes.
I'm like Adam Jensen. I didn't ask for this.
All right, guys, let's go to our last topic of the night.
Now we're going to talk about. That was a great discussion, by the way, guys. And Jay, I wasn't trying to give you a hard time on Metal Gear.
No, you're fine.
Yeah, I was just trying to point. I don't think the game holds up well visually. But let's end the podcast with talking about some of our most underappreciated games, which is just a fun topic because and especially relevant now because I don't know if you guys saw that list of the 100 greatest games that Edge put out. It is a terrible fucking list.
It's a good list.
It's a terrible fucking list, Jay. There's no
Lamar DeMontis on it. So, I mean, it's a good list.
There's no Chrono Trigger. There's no Uncharted 2.
No Chrono Trigger?
There's no Chrono Trigger on that list.
Top 100.
Chrono Trigger's not good.
What the fuck?
Jimmy.
I play Chrono Cross before I play Chrono Trigger, and I like Cross a whole lot more.
Wow, he's gone. All right. So Uncharted 2, I don't think belongs on that list, though.
Okay.
I don't think those games are very good.
I'm okay now. Jay, you're just trolling me, right?
No, I played it on my 3DS a couple years ago, and I did not have a good time.
Okay. I'm not even gonna touch that one.
I mean, I don't think that I think that there are games that kind of get built up as this like internal game journalist canon.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm sorry. One more time, but Anthony chat says next week Saki the Twin Snakes. Jesus Christ. Anyway, Dave, please continue.
No, just like I feel that like you look at a lot of these top 100 lists, and like Chrono Trigger's always number fucking one or whatever. Like it's always like Chrono Trigger, A Link to the Past, or like it's always like the same 10 games. So it's like it's nice to see a shake up sometimes. Like I remember when I was with Games Radar and we did our like top 100 games, and like Dark Souls ended up as number 1, and it was it's like, you know what? Like I don't personally play those games. I don't enjoy them, but like I get why people enjoy them, and it's not the same freaking game. But like not even on a top 100. Uncharted 2 doesn't belong though.
I would say that Uncharted. Ooh,
yeah.
I don't.
You want to hear my Uncharted opinions?
That's a hot take.
I don't think it sucks, but I think Uncharted 3 is leagues better.
I think Uncharted 4 is the better game than Uncharted 2.
What if they're all bad?
I think that Rise of the Tomb Raider is a better Uncharted game.
Oh, Dave.
I actually kind of agree with that in ways.
Dave. See,
I'm not saying anything.
No, now everybody's afraid of giving their opinions because they don't want me to flip out. So I'll give you guys an underrated game. What about Secret of Evermore?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The most underrated RPG of the Super Nintendo era.
It's up there.
I mean, there's Illusion of Gaia.
Yeah,
Illusion
Illusion
of
of
Gaia
Gaia is
too.
real good. I love the whole Soul Blazer trilogy. Obviously, Terra Nigma is underrated because it was only released in Japan and Europe, so we got screwed.
Is it
Europeans never got Chrono Trigger, so I mean, it all evens out. But we never got a hell of a good game.
Like, you guys say this edge list sucks, but like Spelunky's on here, Rock Band 3's on here. Like, this is a great list.
No, there's no list without Final Fantasy VI or Chrono Trigger. I mean, I'm sorry, but I think we can all agree.
Ned-Hog's on here. Ned-Hog's
Chrono
a great
Trigger
game.
is
great.
Chrono Trigger is one of the most influential games of all time. And to see a list, I mean, Dark Souls 2 was number 2 on this list.
Oh my god, what it really was.
It's the first Dark Souls.
I am you guys know my opinions on Dark Souls, and I will tell you right now, Dark Souls 2 is the weakest of that entire series.
No, it's the first Dark Souls is number 2 on that list.
No, I thought it was Dark Souls 2.
And that's the first one.
Oh, well, never mind. The list is accurate and good.
What made number 1?
Breath of the Wild.
Which is not the best game of all time.
What?
Yeah,
The game literally just came out, though.
The game just fucking came out, and it's already the greatest game.
Give it some time
Wait,
to like.
It's like David. It's like wine. Give it time to breathe.
Breath of the Wild
was number
greatest
what?
game of all time.
It's like opening. It's like opening a bottle of wine. You need to let it
We need to
breathe.
stop here. I didn't hear. Did you
Breath
say-
of the Wild was
the
named the greatest game of all time by Edge magazine.
Game's been out for 5 months.
That's
I
what
feel
I'm
like-
saying.
I feel at risk of imposing rules on someone else's website. I feel like no game from this year or even maybe this generation should be on that list because they haven't had time to age.
Hellblade should be on that list because of how.
No, I honestly don't feel like anything from this year should be on that list simply because they haven't had time to process.
Because of the way Hellblade handles mental illness, that game is a benchmark in my opinion, and it deserves a place in the lower tier of that list. But maybe I'm biased because I've got my own mental illness, my anxiety. But getting back to I think that Secret of Evermore in a lot of ways is better than Secret of Mana.
Yes, except for
It definitely
doesn't have
the remake
multiplayer.
comes out.
But
it was a more nuanced and advanced system, battle system.
I prefer Evermore to Mana, but Mana had multiplayer, and multiplayer was what made Mana what it was. So
it did. I also found the visual style of Secret of Evermore to be more compelling than Secret of Mana. But then again, there were a few years between those games, so they had time to kind of tweak that. But it's a real shame that studio, I believe that's the only game that studio ever made, was their studio in America that made a Secret of Evermore. But what about Earthbound? Would you guys consider Earthbound to be underrated?
No.
Not anymore.
You don't think so? Because it never really hit that mass market,
It hasn't.
Cult hit, yes. Underrated, no, because everyone who actually played it loved it.
Yeah.
And like everyone who actually gave it a
That's a
fair
good point.
shake loved it, and it was just.
I would
there are entire cottage industries of like fan merchandise that was like Fan Gamer, a business was created by a bunch of people who loved Earthbound and made Earthbound T-shirts. Like I don't think that Earthbound is underappreciated.
Earthbound was
in the same way.
underappreciated for a very specific amount of time, and that was between when it was released and when Super Smash Brothers came out.
Yes.
Yep,
Mhm.
I agree. That's actually a really good point, dude. Smash Brothers.
I was an Earthbound fan before Smash. Like I think I first played Earthbound in like 1997,
When it
and
came with
instantly loved it.
I got it with the box that came with the collector's guide, the strategy guide.
Mhm.
Yeah, nice. I played it on an emulator in like 97, but I didn't have a Super Nintendo. But then I remember feeling like the only person that loved Earthbound. I mean, I read about it in Nintendo Power, but I had no friends to talk to about it. None of them had ever even heard of it. And then Earthbound came out, and Ness was like the big secret unlockable character, and the rest is history.
It's really interesting the way Smash Brothers opened up that game for a whole new audience.
It was
That game,
massive.
Fire
It
Emblem.
can't be understated.
Fire Emblem, yeah. If it wasn't for Smash Brothers, neither of those franchises would be.
No, that's
Yeah,
another good one. Fire Emblem. Yeah, back in the day, that was sorely underappreciated. Not so much
Yeah.
now, it's fucking everywhere.
Well, I mean, the Fire Emblem never even came to the U.S. for the longest time. Like, it was just a Japanese-only
We
series.
had that one Game Boy Advance game.
Yeah.
I remember when which was the Smash Brothers that had where you had to fight Porky in his spider mech? Which one was that? Was that
Not
Super
the first
Smash?
one.
It wasn't the
Was
first
it
one.
Brawl?
But it might have been. It was Brawl. It was Brawl. Yeah, it was Super Smash Brothers Brawl where you had to fight Porky in the spider mech. And that I remember because my brother was like, "Who the fuck is this guy?" And I was like, "Let me tell you about Porky." And and I was like, "Let me tell you about a little game called Earthbound." And yeah, I Brandon, I hadn't even considered that, man. That's a really good fucking point, dude.
I mean, even so, now it's Earthbound.net, but back then it was called Starman. No, it's the other way around. Now it's called Starman.net. Back in the day, it was called Earthbound.net. They were forced to change the name by Nintendo, but anyway, they were an Earthbound. They were the biggest Earthbound fan site, and one of the guys that ran it was eventually the guy that went on to translate Mother 3.
Which
But-
is, by the way, I don't think ever coming to the States at this point.
No, probably not.
Yeah.
But they even added Super Smash Brothers as like a part of their site because like it just did that much to bring attention to Earthbound that like fans of Earthbound embraced Smash Brothers as like a part of the Mother series almost.
Oh, dudes, I got a good one for you. If anybody's ever played Bloody Roar, that is a fucking underrated,
the animal.
that is
fighting.
an underrated fighting game.
I
you
actually
wouldn't
just
believe.
recently bought Bloody War too.
Is it
Roar.
more or less underrated than Clay Fighter?
Clay Fighter is not underrated. That
Clay
game's a
Fighter's
piece
shit.
of garbage.
That
That
Clay
game is
Fighter is
awful.
Super rare.
It plays
It's
like,
rated exactly the way it should be.
yeah, it plays
Yeah.
like garbage. It was never any good.
I actually have toilet paper upstairs that I printed out to have the Clay Fighter logo on it, and I use that to wipe my ass on a daily basis. That's how I feel about
I was
Clay Fighter.
amused by that they named the N64 game Clay Fighter 63 and a third.
It's so
instead of
dumb.
64.
It's so dumb. They had like an Elvis, something like Blue Suede Goo,
Yeah.
I think was his name, and they had the
I
back
liked
Mr.
the-
Frosty.
I really like the art style of Clay Fighter. Like, it was a good looking game.
It was just a terrible fighting game.
It was
Hey
a
Sam,
awful
what's your
game.
underappreciated game or your favorite underappreciated game?
It was like Shaq Fu levels of bad.
Okay. Let's see. So I honestly don't have that many.
Sam's gonna say for John, it's The Witcher 3.
No, I wasn't because there's critical and audience consensus on that, so you can go stand on your own loser island. Especially after you didn't take up my challenge. I will remind you about that one.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
But let's see. See, the problem I have with saying anything is underappreciated is it tends to be a cult opinion about the game, if that makes any sense, where maybe the game didn't sell as well as it should have, but it definitely got the critical consensus, or vice versa. Maybe it didn't get critical consensus, but it most definitely sold well. The only thing I will say in recent memory that's coming to mind is I enjoyed Quantum Break a lot more than many other people did.
That's a great
I mean,
game.
yes, the final boss is horrible, but it is a great game. It is a fantastic style of game that I wish Microsoft would give us more of. It's a game I would like to have a sequel for.
I think
And the voice acting and the story is phenomenal.
it's an excellent cinematic game. That's how I think about that game. It's a cinematic game with like some action sets in it.
I never played. I never played much of Quantum. I played like 30 minutes of it. I don't have an opinion on it one way or the other. Although I did hear that the final boss in that game is one of the worst in gaming.
Yeah, it's bad.
If you ever get an Xbox, like an X or an S, John, I would like you to play it simply because I'd be interested in your thoughts on it.
Oh yeah, I will absolutely.
It's on PC too.
Yeah, it's on Steam. It's on the Windows Store. Yeah,
Yeah, I guess I guess I could just play it on PC.
I really like the implementation of live action scenes in that game a lot.
Yeah.
Actually,
Sam, do you have any other?
like they're kind of corny, but like they're like I think they work well.
And Time Knife is one of the best things ever written in a video game.
I'd like to know if so who here is not given an game?
Me.
I have not.
Okay, let's hear from Finn, and then we'll hear from Jay.
Wait, but has Dave gone yet?
Yeah,
Oh,
Dave.
I've not.
Dave is not gone. Let's Dave.
Yeah, let
He
Dave
is-
go.
Yeah.
So if Susan's listening to the podcast, hi, you're gonna hate me. So I love the Talos Principle, and I feel like a total of 5 people like that game like I do.
I have not played it yet.
Oh man, So
That's one
it
from the
is.
Serious Sam guys, right?
Yes. So yeah, the team that brought you the game with the guy that has no head but has a bomb and he runs at you. Yeah.
Wait, what?
From the yeah. So Serious Sam is a series of like hardcore
no.
old school first person shooters.
You
That
don't-
team.
You've never played Serious Sam,
No,
John?
no, I have, but you're saying the Serious Sam guys made the Talos Principle.
Yeah.
Yes.
You didn't know that?
That's like-
Yeah,
They
they
went-
did. It was
they went
originally
in-
supposed to be a Serious Sam game.
They totally went in the opposite direction, didn't they?
Yes, they
Tell me
did.
about it.
So yeah, so they were working on a bunch of puzzles for a Serious Sam game, and they couldn't find a way to fit them into the game. But they're like, we have all these puzzles, we like the mechanics. What can we do? And so they took that game. They got they worked with a couple of writers, Jonas Karatzis and blanking on the guy, the guy who wrote the Swapper. Totally blanking
I
on
know
his
what you're
name.
talking about.
But yeah, so he worked with both of them, and apparently Jonas is now also working on Serious Sam 4 whenever that game comes out. But yeah, so they got these two writers to write this game, and yeah, you play as a robot trying to figure out sort of the meaning of life and sentience and conflicting ideas, and you interact with these computer terminals to talk with the ghost in this machine that is trying to poison your mind with doubt. Meanwhile, you solve these like really devious puzzles by manipulating lasers and gates and switches. It's really ingeniously designed, and I feel like if the game were called Portal 3, people would care more about it.
Interesting.
Because I think it's like on that kind of level of like both design and storytelling. It's deep and philosophical without being condescending. It's funny, but it also at times poignant. Like the game is filled with Jeff Goldblum jokes.
Oh, that's speaking my language.
But it never feels like dumb or stupid, but it's also filled with like really heavy themes of like what it means to be human, what happens to humanity after humanity is gone, and it even kind of weaves in like the nature of play and how humans interact with play and how we can use that to learn and grow, and it all comes together in this really like brilliant story. And the DLC that they made for it is like equally as good and funny. And like, go play it. It's really good.
So if I liked, because I love What Remains of Edith Finch, if I liked something like that, would I enjoy the Talos Principle?
It's more gamey. Like, it is definitely like, hey, you're here are a bunch of puzzles to solve. You actually have to solve them and think about them. Like, there are parts of the game that you'll be tripped up with just because the puzzles are really, like, they can get really hard, especially later on.
Okay.
But it's also built as sort of like an open world. So you have this hub area that has a bunch of different portals that you can go into, and each portal has a bunch of puzzles that you could solve in it. So if you ever get stuck in any one spot, you can just bolt out of that puzzle, go somewhere else, solve something, come back later when you have the solution in your head. And like, there are enough puzzles in the game that like you will never really run out of things to do. There are a bunch of secrets, multiple endings. There's a lot there, and apparently they're making a sequel. So
yeah, you're not the only person I've heard to have some love for the Talos Principle, man.
So yeah, you should play it. It's good.
What about Jay and Finn? We're getting close to the magic hour here, but why don't we go ahead and let's get some underrated games from you guys.
Oh, okay. I'll go first on this one. My favorite unappreciated game that I wish everybody would love is Steampunk Chronicles.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's a good one actually, dude.
Yeah, it is a 2005 RPG, action RPG that came out on the PlayStation 2. It is known in Japan as Bumpy Trot.
It's the best name ever. It's so good.
Name I've ever heard in my life.
You play as the main character, Vanilla Beans.
I'm sorry. Can I just say, from now on, I want people to refer to me as Bumpy Trot. I am Bumpy Trot, and Brandon is Vanilla Beans.
But no, I love Steampunk Chronicles. Like, I think it might be my favorite game of all time, besides Final Fantasy VIII.
Ugh.
I just
I'm
like
just laughing at Vanilla Beans now. Like they actually had a character named Vanilla Beans. Like,
like
it sounds like
Steambox-
a James. It sounds like that sounds like a really terrible James Bond girl, doesn't it? Like Vanilla Beans. Sounds like. Anyway, Jay, please continue.
Steambox Chronicles has this like issues like technical wise, like the load times in that game are really like bad, and there's just some like really bad frame rate issues. But like I feel like the charm in that game really makes up for all of it. And though it's not as open world as it was like advertised as, like I feel like the game gives you a lot of choices, and I feel like side content in that game is intriguing. I don't know, it's just, that game's a blast to play. Like I play that game once a year. I'm actually playing through it again right now.
Cool.
And it's fun. Though if you want to play it, you're probably out of luck because it's really expensive nowadays.
It's one of those rare, hard to find games.
Yeah, I think the cheapest I've seen it for recently is like $80.
Yeah, it's not worth it. Not for $80. Not for $80.
And there's actually 2 spin-offs on the PSP. One of them's an actual Steambox Chronicles spin-off that like it's kind of like the original game, and the other one is based on the board game.
There's a board game?
I didn't know that, dude. That's interesting.
Hold on, I think it's based on the board game Bocus or Bacchus. I think I'm pronouncing that right.
Well,
and it's literally a like a board game with the Steambox Chronicles characters in it.
Huh.
By the way, guys, look at chat. Anthony just pointed out exactly why that sounds like a James Bond girl.
And Anthony, yeah, I'm still like I'm totally still sad that the Bumpy Trot 2 got canceled.
Vanilla Beans.
It's actually the reason why I never bought PlayStation 3.
And all right, I want to move on to Finn real quick because we are running really short on time.
I was actually going to say, I'm sorry on that note. I actually have to cut it now, guys.
Yeah, dip. Go ahead, man.
But it was awesome hanging with y'all.
Of course.
It was really cool. Have a good last few minutes of chat. I'll catch y'all later.
Absolutely.
Goodbye.
Okay, I just want to point out that Finn is talking, and we cannot hear him because
I see this.
Oh no.
I think that Saki, our official mascot, had possessed him.
But no, so I'm just going to list a couple, and I won't go too into depth because we're running low on time. So I'll just say it's a couple RPGs, and like I really think Lost Odyssey on the 360 is criminally underrated.
The best RPG from last generation.
As well as the DS RPG Radiant Historia. Man, I forgot about that game. And then on the PS2, PsyOps, which is one of my favorite, and no one knows it. Nobody remembers that game. PsyOps, the Mind Gate Conspiracy. I wish that game.
Oh yeah, there's a game.
I'd never even heard of
then,
that is a PS2.
You've never heard of
title.
PsyOps, really?
PsyOps.
That game got marketed quite a bit back in the day.
Yeah, it was a pretty well-known game of the time.
Those are my options. I miss PsyOps. I'm still sad we'll never get a new Zone of the Enders game because 2 was one of my all-time favorites. I used to dream of a perfect world where a Dragon Ball Z game was made with the Zone of the Enders engine.
Oh, that would have been good.
And then I'll never get that, and I have accepted this. It's fine.
I want to point out that there has been no love for Shadow Hearts.
Oh, shit. Well, no, I didn't want to go too in-depth. Shadow Hearts, especially Covenant, is one
Shadow
of the
Hearts is the most underrated RPG series of all time.
Yes.
And let's just knock that out.
Factual.
But we do got to get going because we have hit our limit. Good topics of discussion for everybody today. And Sam has already gone. Dave, thanks so much for dropping by and hanging out with us, man. We had a fucking blast.
Thanks for having me.
No, dude, it was a lot of fun talking.
Yeah, it's been a blast.
It's been a real gas, as they say in the streets. My street talk is beyond compare.
Yeah, definitely.
But don't forget, guys, we got a lot of fun stuff coming up. Oh God!
Don't worry. Eyes next.
I feel bad for her because she's got to sit crouched under the
really
entire podcast.
She's just playing with
every 30 minutes she pops up for like 5 seconds. That's love, Finn. That's love, man. You're lucky because
look, the painted lady really wanted a more active role.
My wife would do that for like 5 minutes. She'd be like, "Fuck this shit, I'm out." Like, there's no fucking way that Vicky would do that.
I just want you guys to know that amazing rabbit joke I made was actually all Saki.
So all right. Anyway, we're gonna.
Saki, I want you to dab.
We're gonna end this podcast the right way. Okay, we're gonna do it right. Once again, it is 10:30 on a Thursday night.
Oh God, I'm out of here.
The fires are extinguished and the podcast is ended once again. We thank Dave Roberts for joining us and putting up with all of our bullshit. Don't forget to comment, rate, and subscribe. And as always, it's not always poetry, and we don't always agree, but we always keep it real. Goodbye.
Wait, hold on. I forgot to do my giveaway.
We had a giveaway?
You fucking ruined everything.
Sorry, this is worth it.
Next week.
This is worth it.
Ruined it all. You ruined everything. All of that was for nothing.
Hold on.
This podcast sucks.
Hold on. The first
giveaway so we can end the fucking podcast.
The first person in chat that creates and tags the NOLA Nerdcast or the SDGC podcast Twitter handle with some Saki fan art wins a
God damn it. I should have ended the fucking podcast.
Free game. We were talking about it. You will get Torment Tides of Numenera, the CRPG for PC, for free.
It's not
yours.
Tides of Marinara.
Torment.
Tides of Marinara.
Yep.
I love that restaurant.
Just saying. Saki fan art. And also bonus points if you tag John in it.
No, I will ban you. I will block you.
Well, guys, it's been real.
It's been goodbye. It's been great.
We keep it real all the time.
Always agree. We'll always keep it real. Good night.